Today, we're jumping into a topic that's become absolutely critical for anyone using AI, and that's data and AI governance. And look, this isn't about boring old rules and regulations anymore. This is about building the very foundation we need to make AI not just powerful, but genuinely trustworthy. So yeah, let's get right into it.
We're really standing at a huge turning point. Experts are all pointing to 2026 as the year things are set to radically shift. You've got this perfect storm of new regulations, incredibly powerful technology, and new business needs all coming together to completely reshape how we handle data, AI, and even the cloud. And this isn't some fuzzy, far-off prediction. It's happening right now.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about this governance gap that pretty much everyone is facing. Then, we'll dive into why governance is the new bedrock we have to build on. From there, we'll get into the how to architect for trust, how to actually put it all into practice, and finally, what the real prize is, creating AI you can actually, truly rely on.
All right, first up, the governance gap. So why is this conversation so incredibly urgent all of a sudden? Well, it turns out we've got two massive forces on a collision course, and they're pushing governance from a nice-to-have to an absolute non-negotiable must-have.
The first driver, it's the technology itself. I mean, AI isn't just a chatbot or a simple recommendation engine anymore. It's evolving into what the experts are calling agentic systems. So think of these as autonomous AIs that don't just give you an answer, they actually do things. We're talking about systems that can monitor cybersecurity, manage procurement, or analyze legal contracts all by themselves.
And that, of course, raises the million-dollar question. When an AI can act on its own, who is really in control? Without really clear guardrails, the operational and compliance risks are just massive. How do you make sure these autonomous agents are operating safely, ethically, and in a way that actually moves the business forward?
And that brings us to the second driver, regulation. And this time, it has some serious teeth. 2026 is the year the EU AI Act really starts to bite. And we're not talking about another compliance checkbox here. The fines are on the same scale as GDPR, which means getting this wrong could be unbelievably costly. And this isn't some hypothetical boogeyman. The numbers completely back this up. A full 52%. That's more than half of organizations say that compliance and regulation are their single biggest obstacle to adopting AI. So this challenge is very real, and it's here right now. So with autonomous AI on the horizon and regulators knocking at the door, we clearly need a new foundation. And that foundation is governance. But, okay, what do we actually mean when we throw around a term like AI governance? Let's break that down.
So at its core, AI governance is a complete framework. It's that whole mix of policies, processes, and tools that you put in place to make sure your AI systems are operating ethically, reliably, and of course, legally. It's really about building trust into every single step of the AI lifecycle, from start to finish.
And what's really telling is how this idea is kitting on everywhere. I mean, look at this. It's the new Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 from NIST. And for the very first time, they've added a govern function right in the dead center of the model. This just perfectly illustrates that governance isn't just another piece of the puzzle anymore. It's the core pillar holding everything else up, from identifying risks all the way to responding and recovering.
And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point. You simply cannot have effective AI governance without strong data governance. They're not two separate things you can tackle in isolation. No way. They are two sides of the same coin, and they are completely dependent on each other.
I mean, think about it for a second. An AI model is only as good as the data you train it on, right? If your data is biased or inaccurate or insecure, well, your AI is going to be all of those things too. High-quality, trustworthy data is the bedrock. Strong data governance is what ensures the quality and integrity of that foundation. Without it, the whole structure just crumbles.
Okay, so if governance is the foundation, how do we actually build the house? How do we start architecting for trust? Well, right now, two main approaches have really emerged as the frontrunners to solve this problem. They're called data fabric and data mesh.
So first up, we've got the data fabric. You can kind of think of this as the technology-first approach. It uses a ton of automation and active metadata to basically create this unified, intelligent layer over all of your different data sources. Its whole goal is to automate integration and enforce governance consistently everywhere without you having to do it manually.
And then, on the other hand, we have the data mesh.
Now, this is a completely different angle. It's an organizational approach, focusing on people and process. It's designed to break up the bottlenecks of having one central data team by decentralizing ownership. So the business teams, the people who actually know the data best, are empowered to own and deliver their data as a high-quality, ready-to-use product.
This breakdown from Alation really makes the differences crystal clear. You can see Data Fabric is tech-centric. It's all about automation with a centralized governance model. Data Mesh, on the other hand, is organization-centric. It's all about decentralized ownership and a federated governance model, where the different business domains are held accountable. So one centralizes intelligence, while the other distributes responsibility.
So the big question becomes, which one is better? Well, it turns out that's the wrong question to be asking. The key insight for 2026 and beyond is that these two things are not rivals. In fact, the most successful organizations are realizing they're complementary. They use the powerful automation of a data fabric to empower the decentralized, domain-driven model of a data mesh. It's the best of both worlds.
Okay, theory is great, but let's get practical. How do you actually implement this kind of combined meshy fabric approach? Well, here are 4 key steps to get you started on the right path.
First up, you have to build your foundation. And that means a solid data catalog and a clear business glossary, so everyone's speaking the same language. Next, you have to clearly define what a data product actually is in your company and set clear standards and SLAs. Third, it's all about setting up that federated governance model, balancing central rules with domain-level flexibility. And finally, you have to measure everything, from usage and trust to how long it actually takes to get value from your data.
And when you do all this, when you put in the work, what's the real payoff? Well, it's not just about dodging risks and fines. A governance-first approach actually gives you a massive competitive advantage by unlocking something everyone wants but very few have, truly trustworthy AI.
And if you take away one thing today, let it be this. Governance isn't a barrier to innovation, it's what enables it. It is the absolute cornerstone for building AI systems that are reliable, compliant, and that everyone, from your own internal teams to your customers and regulators, can actually put their faith in.
And the benefits are tangible. They're real. When you properly integrate data and AI governance, you start making better, more reliable decisions. You build trust across the board with every stakeholder. Your operations just run more efficiently. And of course, you make that huge challenge of regulatory compliance much, much simpler to handle.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Your AI is constantly learning from your data, but is it learning the right values? A strong governance framework is how you ensure that as your AI gets smarter, it's also learning what matters most: trust, accountability, and responsibility. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.